before as relates to East Tampa. And so we are just excited tonight to have the chairman of the CRA board, Mrs. Gwen Henderson, here with us. And she is going to just speak with us for a few moments before we get our meeting started. So welcome, Mrs. Henderson. All right, then go ahead on go Dragons.
Oh, okay. Yep. When I'm dressed up, because I have somewhere else to go. I kind of don't want to go, but I committed. Oh, it's been a heck of a week. I don't know if you all are paying attention to what's happening in the news, but there are some changes on the horizon for CRA, and it's called flexibility and responsiveness, because there are going to be some changes and we're going to have to pivot because the top leadership has decided to go in another direction, and 3 letters of resignation have been submitted. Are you all aware of that? Yeah. Well, first, March 3rd, I'm going back to Nicole Travis is the first. And then that is followed by her deputy administrator, Mr. Elise Drungo, who's here tonight in support of my efforts of being here, followed by the CRA director, Ms. Erica Moody, has also submitted her resignation. Okay. And I had to think about it, and I had to settle myself, because selfishly, I'm mad, I'm upset. I don't want to see them go. But they have put processes and systems in place that shows the high level of skills that they have and the love that they have for community redevelopment work, where I do believe that whoever steps in, if we go about the business of following what's already in place and not disrupting that process, we can continue to move forward. And that's important. But, community engagement is also a part of that, and we will see. Other than that, I have just completed my first year as the Community Redevelopment Chair, as well as my duties and responsibilities on City Council representing District 5. And it's been an interesting journey. I know that East Tampa is the largest square area of the District 5, but it is representative of about 65,000 people and quite a few neighborhoods. So I do want to say thank you for your patience in me finally getting to a meeting. I know that this is not a standard bearer for the board to appear before you, because of course we have business and it requires votes. So I cannot be a part of conversations where I'm going to be voting on things that impact your business. Other than that, some things that we've already done, and I know that the board has made some decisions and that we have made some decisions. I mean, the CAC has made some decisions and the board has made some decisions. But I believe, when you think about it, it's not just Gwen Henderson. There is a 7-vote process. And if you're paying attention, 9 times out of 10, it gets 7. It is unanimous. It's not personal for me. This work is not personal for me. I want to do what's in the best interest of East Tampa. The 1 vote that was not unanimous was Fair Oaks Park, and that was 6-1. And it's an amazing park. I understand the processes and the protests that have occurred around that, but I'm thankful that Fair Oaks is coming to life. And as you can see, the work is taking place. We're working on the EBO participation. Are there challenges? Yes, but we are here to meet those challenges. And so that's one of the things that I could say to you. Destination Church, we bought that. That was one of the very first things that I did. Made that motion. Also, we disrupted the process in terms of how CACs function by eliminating the subcommittees. And I know that that change was challenging for, many folks. But Destination Church is a great opportunity that already the community engagement piece has already taken place. Hey, what would you like to see? But that property, because of the size of it and the competitiveness of it, we did not have the room or the capacity to go back and ask you all for permission. And now I think what I'm going to say next is going to make some people uncomfortable as I see this process playing out. I understand your role is as an advisory role. When I came into this position, because of Destination Church, I got the impression that the CAC tells the CRA board what to do, or that's how it would be preferred. And I know that that's not the case. I know that the final decision does rest with the CRA board, and some people don't like that. But that is something that you cannot change. And I know respectfully, if you disagree with that, or if you feel as though we're not listening to you, you have every right to express yourself, and many of you do. There are people that come to public comment. There are people who come and make public comment, and there are folks who, of course, will write letters, and there are folks who will call. One of the things that I've shared in some smaller meetings within East Tampa is that a few people cannot speak for the entire district or for the entire East Tampa population, and that is unfair. So if you have a voice and you feel like your voice is being drowned out in this capacity, you still have a right to express yourself in public comment. You can write letters, and not just to me, you can communicate with all of us. And I am always open to that. The one thing that I do is spend a lot of time reading what's here with me. So with that being said, I know I can't stay for your meeting, but I will take a few questions, just a few, if it doesn't come this meeting.
Okay, viewers, well, we have a microphone right over here. If we could, if you have a question or not, let's just pass it on down and give everybody a chance if they have a question. Carlos, question? Okay, pass the mic on. Pass the mic. Diane.
Ms. Noreen, I know you committed to the meeting part, but you don't have to.
She outstanding.
And so,
Ms. Burke,
how you doing, ma'am? Good. So I like to be transparent.
of course, and we have been.
And so I think that,
Yes.
what you stated is, and I want to be clear because,
Just a mic on.
if I feel like it was implied, I want to respond, right?
I didn't like anything. I said what I said, but if you want to respond, I have no problem.
I'm gonna respond.
Go
That's
ahead.
why I got mine. So we all have the ability to come to express ourselves, and I don't think I've never felt that this board control what the council will make the decision. The unfortunateness of it is that the community is asked to participate in the process. And so some of us haven't just gotten here a year ago. Some of us have been following this process of the CRA for the past 20 years. And so it becomes almost offensive if the council feel, if the community feels, if our voices are not being heard, whether we're sitting here or right there. That's one thing. Number two, a lot of promise has been made prior to you getting here, and the community has just been patiently waiting. What we see happening now is the high priority issues is becoming overbearing to what the majority has been asking for.
Can you be specific?
Such as occupied rehab.
Occupied rehab.
Right, that's been like 15 years.
Okay, well, can we stop there only because I'm 59 and my memory is, it has nothing to do with you, Ms. Burke, trust me. But I want to address that because, I mean, I know many, do you all know V Parks? Yeah, she has been put in, what is the name of her position now? Housing.
So she's a community development coordinator.
And V Parks is so excited about the owner occupied process that's getting ready to come down the pipe right now. Ms. Burton, you know in government that things are not done in a vacuum overnight and things don't happen quickly. It does take time. I remember, even outside of just East Tampa, I went to an event. They were excited about Rome Yards a year ago, but we just put the shovel in the dirt 1 year later. Things take time. And so now we're at that point where that work is getting ready to burst because the processes are in place, and I'm really excited about that. So, and B is excited about it. I just happened to talk to her today, be part. So, you know, you have been patient, it has been promised, and now it is time for the delivery. I do recognize that implementation is the most important part. We have land, we have things that we've done, but you want to see the fruits of that, and it is time for that, and I agree with that.
A big part is the deliverable will be waiting to see that before she came along. We've had a litany of individuals. So that's the point I want to make. Is the promises made and the non-deliverables, and then the perception is that the community is not clear on what it's requesting. Thank you.
I appreciate you. And you know, and I'll say this, you know, to everyone, I have no problem facing the hard things. I have no problems talking to anyone who's willing to talk to me. So that's really important that you know that. And I appreciate that because Brent and I have had conversations. And sometimes, even when you disagree, there still can be a medium, and I've been asked her for opportunities. You like the summer program. That is in the budget at the same dollar amount, you know, it will be in the budget, but I can't commit to that, the budget hasn't. But that is being discussed. We don't want the summer youth employment program to go away, but we do want to provide the kids with an opportunity to earn their high school workforce credit, which is now required for graduation. That's really important. Use the terminology of internship and experience. That's really important to me, and for them to receive different experiences. Under the CRA, the slum and blight and cleaning up and picking up trash is just a part of it because of the dollar figures that are being used. So, you know, I just look for an alternative that hopefully will be in the best interest of the children to be a part of departments where they can get some experiences that possibly could lead to some very valuable careers. But thank you so much for that.
Ebony DaCosta, no questions. I just want to thank you for your time, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. We appreciate that.
Move the mic. Move the mic up.
But I appreciate that. I just want you all to know that, you know, I actually, people ask me all the time, you know, do you like it? Do you like it? And I'm like, yes, of course. I actually really do like it. I am ambitious. I said that at the beginning on my campaign trail, and being an overachiever. This work is very fulfilling to me. It's very transferable to what I've done as an educator as I've completed my 30th year in Eastern County Public Schools. Just recently. So, you know, I'm here for the challenges, the good things. It's not just about the ribbon cutting. There are some serious challenges within various communities. You know, we have a homelessness challenge that we need to address, but you and I all both know that homelessness is not a crime. They are citizens too, and they need to be treated with respect. But we do, you know, want to also be able to provide them with places to go and services. So that's really important to me. I don't want to just, you know, have police come in and clean them out of a car and you know, as though they are not part of our community, because they are. So just things like that are important to me as well. Gosh, I lost that thought. I buried it. Hopefully it'll come back up. Oh, I know what I want to say. For a few months there, I know that it did appear that I was dormant. As many of you all know, my mother did pass away. I took care of her for 6 years. She lived with me day in and day out. I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to do that. So I did bury my head in sand for about 3 months. I thought that I could jump up and go back to work, but you know, it took a minute. It took me about 2 weeks to kind of figure out that I can't, you know, go on with my life. So I really do appreciate, I received a lot of love from East Tampa, which was a nice surprise to me. And I just want to publicly thank you all for that. I really appreciate it. I am feeling better. And, but there was a time where I had to cancel a lot of appointments and meetings, and then I had to make up for them on the back end. So I do appreciate your patience for that as well. Any more questions?
Anything?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Craig Fox, Craig Fox, thank you for coming out here tonight. I wanted to know, as far as the CRA's decision to eliminate the committees, could you explain kind of the reasoning behind that?
primary issue. With each subcommittee, there was a lot of motions being made within the subcommittees, and the organization and structure of it, the executives felt like, you know what, the subcommittees, not that you can't exist, but to exist and to be serviced by staff was becoming very cumbersome, whereas you can just take that information to your board, present it to you all, and then you all make the decisions based on what the information that subcommittees are doing, but not in the context of being staffed by the CRA, because it was cumbersome, and they showed me the actual documents that they were tracking this on 11 by 17-inch paper, just the many motions and tracking them and where they are and where did they go. Whereas if it's housed under one umbrella as East Tampa CAC, then it would be better, easy to manage. And if there is, I know that there was a lot of people upset about that, not just in East Tampa. A lot of people are feeling that, was feeling some kind of way about it. But a few people have said, you know what, it is working. And maybe you feel that way, maybe you don't, I don't know. But I do know that that was the process that they were requesting when I came into office. Elise, do you want to speak on that a little bit? I think, do I have it? Is there something I'm missing?
I won't interject.
Okay. Thank you. But I did support it. And so did the board.
Ms. Burton, go ahead.
So the transition of senior staff out of the economic and housing, those three people, how would you say it's components in place? And I know there's things that we have asked for that you say D Park will get it up and going. Outside of how would you personally, as our councilwoman, measure that you're watching progression in East Tampa? So we are doing a lot of land assemblage. We're also, the affordable housing question is always on the map. I don't know who's going to take these folks' places. New people coming in, new ideas, fresh ideas. Is this a year, flip, 2 years flip? What should the community anticipate?
Okay, I'm a teacher, Ms. Bird, so that's like 7 questions. And
well, it's all in the same neighborhood. Right.
One of the things that I will say is that all of you all do know that we are a mayor-led city. So she shoulders the responsibility of the replacement process. And then we as a board and council decide, who is going to be represented in those particular positions, because they do require, approval from city council or the board. And that is, one of the first things that's going to take place. So it is her responsibility. And it is a big task because, there is a reality there. She only has 3 years remaining in office. And, but I, have to give her the opportunity to step up to that challenge. And hopefully those positions will be, filled quickly. But what I will also say is that we have to take advantage of the time that we have remaining with the people who have decided to move on. At least that is my plan. And that is, I think, very important, is that we absorb all of the details and all of the knowledge that they have provided us over the past few years so that the implementation can continue.
Okay, we want to thank you all for all the questions. I do have a couple of things I want to touch on.
Sure.
I think they're important. And the first is, there is a 20+ year culture that was developed with and relationship with the community for moving information from a grassroots level up to the CAC and up to the CRA board. By eliminating committees, that information chain has been cut off. And I would challenge the CRA board to be thoughtful about how that can be reestablished, because what we're getting a lot of now are recommendations from staff. They start. The first question we'll get for a lot of things coming to our agenda is, this has come from staff. Conversely, it used to be meetings held in small groups throughout the community where something was hashed out. And then we'd come to this meeting and say, hey, staff, is this something that could be done? And then staff would go back to the city and talk to legal and whatnot. And out of that would become some idea that would then rise up to the CRA board. So that flow of information has been kind of cut off. And I hear a lot of it coming from our manager. He is getting direct citizens thinking, well, where do I go? So I'll just pump this, into your office. But it's not that organic upward motion of information has been cut off.
So why can't they present it to the CAC?
Well, we get into that. So,
Okay.
right, as you can appreciate, it was presented to the CAC. It was done through these committee settings where during the week there were multiple. There's a meeting on budget where the CAC would have a budget meeting with the community to talk about the budget and go over things that they were concerned about and places we could enhance spending money and things of that nature. Or they had ideas for programs. It can, if they show up here, which you can appreciate if you think about with not only the CRA board, but with city council, the minuscule number of people that come to that meeting and say, excuse me, city of Tampa, I have an idea. It's very intimidating. And some people just don't function well. And particularly in a community like East Tampa, that has been historically underserved and kind of left out of that decision-making process. So I'm just putting that on the table that's one thing to be thoughtful about. The other one is, if I could, and not, you don't have, this is not for an answer,
Okay.
it's information.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, no.
I know how to be quiet.
So the other one is this. East Tampa, the CRA, they came to this community for the first CRA in Tampa for a reason. That is because this community was extremely underserved and trusting. Those two things go together. And they trusted that if we agreed to certain things in this community, that we could build a relationship, whether it makes sense or not, by cutting off the relationship with the partnership, which pre-existed the CRA, that relationship has been jolted. And I think there needs to be a process to reassure this community that its voices matter, because the majority of the voices are in the partnership where the community associations, they operate in that sphere. So just to be aware that there needs to be and maybe an effort to make sure that relationship is reaffirmed, that your things will get done. Ms. Burton pointed to something that is also historical in East Tampa, that is projects get bumped back. In particular, when I came on the CRA 4 years ago, the two projects I remember there's some discussion about. The Gator building, what would happen there, and sidewalks on certain neighborhoods in this community. And sidewalk, nothing has moved. Money's sitting there, and we understand that it's in the hopper to be gotten to. But we're now in an election year, and the more visible projects are going to jump out front. We know because they have more pop to them than just a sidewalk here and there. So there's a culture and a history here of not getting the attention it needs. And this community is going to be looking to you to be our voice on that board and making sure there's accountability. When they come there and say, okay, we can't be able to ask, well, where are we at in the hopper, and get a response realistically, but you can. And so I would just ask that you
That is fair.
and your staff track that, have that project. They mentioned the owner occupied rehab. We previously had to abandon the entire program because we just couldn't get any traction within the city departments. And so it was converted to another program that we were assured would accelerate it forward. And it's creeping along until there was a public outcry regarding a particular property. And suddenly we can get that one moving. So I'm just pointing those things out to say that because the voices in our community have been muted a little bit, we're looking to you to be a stronger voice to make sure that there's equity in the way that the East Tampa CRA is treated when issues come before you. And you don't.
So you need me to be stronger.
Yes.
Stronger in what capacity?
The first one is, I think we want to make sure you've only been there a year. We're talking a culture and history. It took me a year to figure out when our meeting dates and how the thing worked. So I can understand the complexity of it, how it all works. But as you ramp up the speed, I think it'll become clearer the way that efforts have been distributed to address issues in East Tampa. You'll suddenly start to see suddenly there's a pet project and it runs to the front of the line. And something else we've been asking for and asking for and asking.
What's a pet project? Be specific.
Well, right now the hot one is going to be, one moment please. The hot one right now is going to be,
Okay, Ponce de Leon, I see you.
22nd. The lake on 22nd Avenue. That's gonna jump. It's got visibility. It's big. There can be a nice ribbon cutting. There's money for it. And I see, and there was also a time when there was no money in the East Tampa CRA, so it really wasn't given the attention it needed. But that's probably going to jump out. We're now having meetings where we find out, hey, there's a piece of property that's come available. Hey, we've got a contract for it. We need you all to support moving this forward. Well, we've not gotten any information that that project was even in consideration. There is no plan that we're aware of specifically to the project, but we're being told, hey, it's got to be gotten now. And then, so we try to be supportive of that. So that's another one. But I see the pond is getting some energy behind it, which rightfully so. It's been sitting there for, I think there's a plan that may be 15 years old for doing it. 22nd. It's a very open.
Well, we want a grant through a the heat study
Yeah.
grant. So that is.
So with that in mind, though, but I'm just pointing that out to say that from your vantage point, you'll slowly start to see some things are priorities. Other things don't have the high visibility, so they may not be as high a priority. And we need for you to be more, because also we have, remember that with the community, there's kind of we got to kind of, it's regrouping because of the changes. It really is trying to figure out how are these people, rank and file folks at HOAs, really going to get heard besides showing up here once a month or coming to the CRA once a month. And people are terrified to come down and take those 3 minutes. Not you. It's not, it's not you though. All right. So look. Yeah. We listen. We're getting it right. So anyway.
We see y'all all the time. People want to come.
Yes. So, but anyway, yeah. So let me just say this though. We appreciate your efforts. We're looking to you for leadership, and you're welcome to come back and visit with us anytime you'd like. And we thank you very much.
Well, one of the things that, me attending the community association meetings is really on my radar in year 2. They've been very helpful because remember, there's isolation as well in East Tampa. Every little community is different or has different challenges or issues that they want to address. So hearing from them is something that I've been doing, and that's really important. One of the things that I will say is that I want our fight to be on the same page. I do. I don't want you to think that. I want what's best for East Tampa. I want for this to be a thriving community. This was one of the places where I struggled looking for the perfect location for my bookstore, and I just couldn't find one. It was disappointing to me because I do own a Black bookstore and I want it to be in the heart of a Black community, and I still want that. I have this desire to hang out on 22nd Street the way people hang out at Armature Works. And so that's not the typical statement of a city council member, because I am an outlier up there. I do come from the heart of an African-American community. And so I know that we deserve quality things. And I also know that diversity is okay in our communities as well. It is important that you all thrive, and I support that in every way. And I do understand the need for you all to fight for the things that you believe in. I hear you. I respect that. And if we disagree, I will say that I disagree. And maybe along the way, because it happens with my daughter, y'all might say something that, you know what, I can get behind that. And I may say something that you all can get behind. It doesn't have to be my idea or your idea, but we do have to collaborate. And that is important to me. Everything is negotiable. As even what you said about, the subcommittees, that is something that I can't speak on. I like, because I come from a leadership position, you have to let the staff do their job. And so new leadership may agree with you on that. And if it's presented in a way where it is effective and that's the direction that particular, executive level wants to go in, I'm not saying that I would be wholeheartedly against that. But how they were operating It required too much staff because remember, it's not just the East Tampa CAC. There are what, 8 CRAs? 8, so when you think about it from a staffing level, and it becomes a part-time job. So it's like, yeah, they work all day and then they got to go to your meeting. And some of y'all meetings have lasted until 9 o'clock at night, so it can be challenging. Who's going to do that? I asked that of the Racial Reconciliation Committee. It was like, well, who's gonna take the notes? And somebody said, well, we could just get staff to do it. Oh, really? So you that it's not that easy. So somebody would have to tell a staff member, yeah, you can't work. We'll give you flex time. You need to go to this meeting or whatever. It just doesn't work that way. People sign up for what they sign up for. So, there are processes in place that may not work for everybody. And that just happened to be one. I was in the parking lot and Darlene is my witness. B Parks was on the Zoom on a CAC meeting in the parking lot, and we were leaving work at like 8 o'clock at night. And she was like, oh, I'm still in the meeting, and trying to get home to her kid. So it can be challenging, and hopefully we can figure out a way where, it can work for everyone. But thank you so much, y'all. I do have another event, and I appreciate your time, your individual civic associations, community associations. Feel free to continue to invite me to attend those. I will attend those and get them in. I appreciate your time. And I need some water.
I'm going to be real brief because, Councilwoman, I know, but you kept calling my name, so I'm saying it. I do appreciate you coming out. We want to thank you so much for your level of support because you do speak up for East Tampa. I just want to also remind my colleagues that we have our at-large council members that are there as well that's representing us. So and we have at-large members that are supposed to be representing us as well, not only her. We do appreciate what you're doing, but we know you can't do it alone. So I do encourage them to find out who those at-large council people are and meet with them one-on-one. They are open to meeting with you guys. Have a great evening and thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hendricks. All right. All right, let's go ahead and get our meeting called to order, if we could. And let's do quickly a roll call of who we have present. All right, Clinton Paris, Chair, I'm present. Craig Fox, Connie Burton, Noreen Copeland-Miller, Ebony DaCosta, Cynthia Donnell, Tonette Gaines. She's online. Dr. Grace Glenn, Kimberly Hedlund, Eileen Henderson, Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, Frankie Jones, Carlos De La Osa, Fran Tate, and Diane Ziegler. All right, we have a quorum. Mr. Fox, if you would lead us in a moment of prayer, please.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all here safely. I pray that we will have a safe and productive meeting, which we will freely exchange ideas. Please give us the wisdom to listen to our community and implement the ideas. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll have public comment now. If you have a public comment, step forward. You have 3 minutes. Just state your name. If you have a copy of the agenda and you're speaking to a specific agenda item, please identify that agenda item and let's go from there. So anyone in the audience here who would like to make a public comment, come on up and you can do it from right here. I thought I had one. Okay.
Good afternoon or good evening. Keela McCaskill, Attorney Paris, thank you for speaking up for the community, what we could not articulate. Thank you so much. You did a very good job in doing that. So again, I'm Keela McCaskill, the founder of the Center for Economic Development. Many of you board members are in neighborhoods, and sometime back, you'll remember you supported a community awards or service award ceremony that we would do quarterly. And so it took up too much of your time in your meeting. So my organization decided we wanted to continue in that. So in September, We're going to do another one. So I'm going to ask you all, even in the public here, if you have anybody that serves your community, does some outstanding things, we want to do a service award ceremony. There's no limit to how many we want to celebrate, but in September, I just believe that it's important for us to honor those that have served their time, their efforts, their resources in your communities, no matter what their organizations are. So if you would send me those recommendations, you can text, email, call. When you see me, give me the name. I'm going to cut it off on August 15th, but send me as many people as you can that have served, I mean, really served in your community, because we're going to have an award ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Elise Drumgo, Deputy Administrator for Development and Economic Opportunity. As the Councilwoman mentioned, I'm on my last few weeks here with the city. My last day is July 1st. And so I wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to serve. And I did want to just speak to some of the things that were brought up, because I think that, when you talk about processes and improving systems, we have made some changes that have helped. On your owner-occupied rehab, it'll be called a home renovation or rehab program. But systematically, we're bringing in job order contracting to help with that process, to speed it up, to make sure we have the right contractors, to make sure that those processes are flowing. I think we've done a great job at it with the roof program that we've had in place. And so I would just encourage you all to make sure you've got the money in the buckets, and make sure that that money continues to keep flowing through there. I watched back the other meeting when you all were talking about budget and the additional monies that need to be reallocated. Just make motions, right? Like when I watch these meetings, I want to encourage you to make the motion, move the money, or recommend the money be moved. And then also make the motions to bring the discussions back and to have discussions here amongst the group, because it sounds like you're getting hung up on having a subcommittee to have some of those discussions. But in reality, you can just say, listen, we want to have a discussion about how we implement a sidewalk on Chelsea between certain block and certain blocks. Okay. Make the motion to do that instead of coming in and opining over how disappointed you are that we haven't done it. And I know that, in this space, you really want to see change. I want to see it for you, and I will continue to do that work outside of my role that I currently have, and I will continue to offer advice and support to the folks in this room. So I will ultimately end up leaving my personal phone number so that you all can reach out to me and you can contact me anytime you want to, because I do believe in what you want to accomplish, and I would love for you all to continue to hold people accountable for the things we said we would put in place. We do have great infrastructure with the grants programs, that process, and also project management. And so you'll see it become a lot more seamless. And I'll stop because I did hear that time. So
It was premature.
Okay, but I just wanted to make sure that you all understand, as a CAC, you do have that power. The other, I think, conflict that I hear a lot, or I heard through the other session, was the attempt to move money from projects that the board has already approved. And I would say that you want to have those discussions before the board approvals start to happen, because once the board approves it, you cannot reallocate that money. Okay, like your board is the actual CRA, and so they are the final word. And when you look at that budget, one of my recommendations to the managers is that when you come in to talk budget, just highlight those buckets in red. You can't touch them. If you have a project, North 22nd Pond, you can't touch it. If there's a project that was board approved from the previous fiscal cycle, you need to keep the money in place and execute the project. That's what y'all have to do. Keep the money in place, execute the project, but this body does not have that authorization to move those dollars, okay? So just keep that in mind. You can generate the projects and discussions here, okay? And yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you for your service and assistance. And we need to get that cell phone number so we can use it. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Anybody else in the audience for a public comment? You have 3 minutes, and I'll ask my diligent timekeeper to
Thank you for being diligent. Hello, my name is Valerie Bullock. I just want to say I went back to my neighborhood, and I spoke to my neighbors about the property on Osborne that East Tampa CRA bought. And I also told them about the other lots that East Tampa CRA have. And the number one question I got, what is being done with the property? Why are we just accumulating property, and will they live to see something happen to the property in their lifetime? And people outside who haven't stayed in Belmont Heights, Jackson Heights, they might not be familiar with the distrust. So many times we've been made promises, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and it never happened. And the community seems to think that East Tampa CRA is buying the property and going to sit and hold on to it until most of the majority of the Black people leave the community, and then you all are going to do something with it. So I'm just voicing the opinion of the neighborhood, and I feel like that too. And it would be good in the very near future, hopefully before this year is out, we could see the designing and the planning. What are you planning on doing? We know it don't have to be this the permanent one, but at least a draft of it. Because I think we are due that. The people in East Tampa, where I stay at Belmont Heights and Jackson Heights, we are the most disrespected people in the city of Tampa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience for public comment? Okay, let's go online. If there's anyone online for public comment, unmute yourself, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mr. Robinson.
Joe Robinson from the West Side. I appreciate y'all letting us in from the outside. Last time I had to call your manager and say why y'all ain't letting the public in. So I appreciate y'all got that open. And I appreciate this dialogue. And I just want to thank Mr. Drumgo sitting back there, what he's done. And Ms. Moody for what she's done, and Nicole Travis for what she did. However, right now we're in a state of flux. And you guys are experiencing it, we're experiencing it as well. And one thing I would like to see, and I see Miss B Parks, I think, sitting way back there in the corner. I believe that's her with this camera. The grant program, that program is yet to be sent to the board, to the CRA board. The capital projects, I think I shared that with a couple of members on your committee. But the grants program, I don't know if y'all have seen it, but we haven't seen it on the west side, that document that would be submitted to the board, the CRA board for implementation, where they're consolidating all of the different housing grants. That's the one I'm talking about, housing. We got capital, now it's housing, and housing is an issue. So I just hope that y'all keep pushing like we pushing on the west side, get the housing grant documents to the board and let them vote it so it can get implemented, because they told us you can't implement, you can't use the old programs. You got to wait till the new ones get approved. Well, that ain't true, because then they said, well, you can use the old ones. Well, what is it? So it's a ball of confusion. So I just hope that with God's speed that they go on and do what they're going to do, and that the city administration take God's speed, and let's get some people in here so that we get this transition. If they're leaving, let's get that knowledge that they got. Let's pick up where they left off, because there are some things that are not complete, especially that housing. So I just want to let y'all know, if y'all got the housing information that they done sent the board, please send it to me, because I got the one for capital projects, but I've yet to see the one presented to the board. And thank you for your leadership, Mr. Parrish. You're doing a good job over there. And I see a lot of great things coming out this new people you have sitting down here. Y'all buy business on the east side. I might come back over there and buy some property again if it ain't so expensive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson, for attending the meeting, your support, and your comments. Okay, anyone else online that would like to make public comment? You have unmute yourself, state your name. You have 3 minutes. Okay, well, that concludes our public comment. Let's move along with our agenda. And the next item up, it says here, presentations. No presentations. My other question is, where are the minutes? Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's move on now to the action items. A is approval of the May 7th, 2024 minutes. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes? Are there any corrections to the minutes? You've heard the, is there a second to the motion to approve the minutes? Second by Ms. Noreen Copeland Miller. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we move the minutes. All right, we're moving along here. All right, let's go to this 4603 North 19th Street. Mr. McCray.
Good evening, members of the East Tampa CAC. Cedric McCray, CRA manager. In your packet that you received, as you know, we've had a lot of discussions as it relates to purchasing of parcels in and around the Osborne and Palafox corridor. We, in last fall or last summer, purchased about 2 acres roughly in the center between Osborne and Palafox. And then last month, we brought to you the property at 1911 East Osborne. And I know there was some heartburn as it relates to the purchase and some of the plans moving forward. And I shared then that we will be coming back with other parcels before you in the coming months as we look forward to trying to assemble and get site control of land in that immediate area for the purpose of affordable and or attainable housing. With that being said, there is a 4.6 acre site right off of 19th and Palafox. We already currently own the site to the south. This parcel is to the north of that. And in your packet, there is a overhead or map that shows the parcel that we are referring to. The overall cost with the closing fees and taxes, we're asking or requesting $420,000 for that parcel. It would be $400,000 for the overall purchase, and then, as I stated, $20,000 for the closing costs and fees associated with the purchase of the parcel. Any questions? Ms. Bird.
Ms. Bird, if you get the microphone right there, please. Thank you.
So for the parcel on Osborne, the argument, the discussion was that we needed that because no vehicle could make a left, right turn, right, in that area.
Yes, the request was that we could have a additional area of ingress, egress, or entrance and exit.
Right. So nothing prevents us from moving forward, say off the Palafox with the addition that you've already purchased on Osborne from moving forward, right?
That is correct. This parcel would give us the piece to the north.
Okay, so there's about 3 or 4 houses over there that's abandoned. The one next to it, the bar, and the one still on Osborne. So for 2 pieces of property.
Parcel of the building that's on the corner of Osborne 19? The blue,
yes.
Blue building?
The bar,
Oh,
the one next to it.
Okay.
Is an abandoned house. So for 2 pieces of property, we have already, if we purchase this, that'd be $1 million for just 2 pieces of property.
Correct.
No plan. You got a whole staff that did abandon the boat. And now you're asking this body to approve without knowing what the plan other than we want to have land assemblage. I'm just one vote, but I'm concerned that is it some kind of inside trader deal going that the property $600,000, $400,000, $500,000?
So, Ms. Burton.
You didn't say you needed that property. You said you needed that one piece to get us going on Osborne for $600,000. Now you need another piece for $400,000.
Yes.
Okay.
So keep in mind, if you remember last year, we didn't pay a premium for the site that the first 2 parcels of 2 acres that we purchased. Right. It was previously owned by another city agency, and they could only sell it to us for what we paid for it. Ultimately, that those two parcels appraised for over $1 million. So we were already ahead because we only spent somewhere between $260,000, $280,000. So, and hold on, let me finish. Let me finish. So with that being said, and I shared this last month in my manager report and closing comments, we are going to continue to be aggressive in assembling property in East Tampa with the hopes that we can get site control and look forward to future projects. And the priority has been housing. We know that. We've said that. We've heard it from this body. We've heard it from other bodies, various meetings, from CAC, the partnership, the subcommittees. So we are trying to do that. We as government can't go in and force folks to sell us their property. It's a two-way street.
I understand that, and I thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
But it's not like this is your first piece of property you have purchased.
Mhm.
You have about 20 plus pieces of non-traditional lots that you've been sitting on for over 15 years almost. And you've done nothing with it.
Let's let the board members speak, and then we'll do your comments. Ms. Burton.
Could I just say this, and I ain't gonna say no more?
Yes.
Mr. I can't, Drummo, I appreciate you. You know, I eat lunch with you. Leave your notes. Leave your notes. Okay? Cause you'll be gone in less than 3 weeks. Just leave your notes. Thank you.
If you don't have anyone else with pass the mic, please. Thank you.
Mr. Drumgo, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to share, because I know you guys have put a lot of work in, but I know that you have been more transparent than some of your staff. So I think that is the dilemma we're in, because it's been going on for a while. But I can appreciate you. Once again, you've been way more transparent than some of your staff, and I thank you for that.
So I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Connie and Noreen said in terms of transparency. And as a new member, I agree with Connie. If I remember correctly, we were told you have to buy this property. It's the only one we're going to ask you to buy. You got to buy it. And let me remind you, it was already on the agenda that Thursday. So quite frankly, our vote was irrelevant. Okay. And we heard that at council if you paid attention. Our vote was irrelevant. But tonight I hear we need this property too now. So I have a question. Is there any other property here we need to know about that we can prepare for, that we are going to be forced to say yes because council or CRA is going to vote yes anyway? And I don't mean to be facetious or sarcastic, but right now I'm feeling like, what's my role? Why am I here? And I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but it's certainly how I've been feeling. So I'm going to need those questions answered for me, because I find myself in another position where I feel the pressure to vote yes for a piece of property that I didn't know anything about. So I just want to know. Let us know if there's anything else we need to know about. Please, I beg of you. Thank you. All hands.
We'll.
I guess I just have a question regarding, this is smack dab in the middle of, a pretty decent sized block. And I'm also new, so I wasn't here for the initial assemblage that we're seeing in the yellow. But I do have a question for those who have more background about the density allowed on these lots, because this is a lot of money to spend. And if they're zoned as single family and the comp plan has them at a low density, we're paying a lot potentially to put in a very low number of units. And so there's a return on investment there that I'm curious about, that I feel like I need more information on before I can make an educated vote on this. If this is between the $600,000 property and another 420, if we're only going to add 3 units of housing that we still have to pay to build, I have some concerns. So I'd like to know what the zoning, what the comp plan is, and what the future could look like for density.
Let's go and get your question on the floor. Okay.
Ms. Henderson, to answer your question, it has been my experience sitting on this board. We never know what we're getting ready to talk about or discuss as far as purchasing land. We're just given a agenda, and a property appears on the agenda action item, and that's what we discuss and that's what we vote on. I'm a bit confused about all this land purchasing as well. I'm at the point now where I just don't agree with it. We're banking all this land. Let's start building. We're talking housing, housing, housing. Let's start building. What is the problem? Why can't we start building?
Okay. I don't know if you got. Go ahead, Ms. Fox.
Yeah, Craig Fox. So I do recognize the concerns of the board members, and I don't believe that we should just, go into situations blindly. So I'm looking forward to hearing responses to the issues brought up. I do feel like the more land that we as a body and the CRA owns, East Tampa CRA owns, the better off we're going to be. I completely agree with the concerns for density. Definitely don't want to see the McMansions on here that's selling for $600,000 like some other properties are. Definitely want to have high density where it's attainable, affordable. I already expressed my concerns before with just home ownership and as far as that being available and feasible for working class members to own. Personally, I believe that some of the units should be rentals. I was able to, I was able to take advantage of a affordable rental, and it greatly benefited my family. And I think, we just should definitely give that opportunity to others. So I definitely support us owning as much land as possible because, we got to build on it. But of course, having the oversight where the commitments are followed through and we don't just build and acquire land for the rich.
But we don't own the land. The city owns the land. We're just purchasing it.
Is there another microphone over there? Pass that over. Pass that over.
I'm definitely in favor of this East Tampa CRA obtaining this land. It's as Mr. Fox said, this is Diane Ziegler, by the way. As Mr. Fox said, we have the control over the land. Nationwide, there's a lot of commercial developers grabbing up land, and they will build whatever they want and charge whatever they want. This is a great chance to obtain the land and have a bigger plan. And again, you can't make a plan until you have the land. You just can't do it. You can wish and imagine it, but you have to have the square footage and know what the shape is and what the size is before you do any drawings. But I really think that if we don't get it, somebody else will grab that. And I don't think it's an outrageous price. It's almost a half acre. And also supporting what Mr. Cedric McCrae said, that we got the initial big chunk of land at a real premium price. And the cost of land is just going up by the day. And I think we need to act on this immediately.
That big parcel of land didn't have no any type of, it's almost like a I'm not going to say a jungle, but it didn't have no electrical, it just real barren. That's correct. No, nothing. Yes. And so developers weren't looking for that. And developers ain't looking for this because developers are about making profit. They don't come and buy property for $600,000 unless it's on Bay Shore, and that would be a steal. In a very impoverished community such as this, I think it's outrageous that this city has not invested, despite the years that we have been asking to show us something. Don't show us something when Domain Homes want it. Don't show us after we didn't purchase the church down there, and you got all those little houses that you just built for $400 some thousand, but across the street you won't even put a roof on those houses. So that's what we are paying attention to. So yes, I'm for land, but it would just be foolish for me as a poor woman to want other people to eat better than this community, to do better than the people that have made all the investment. All them nickels, dimes, and quarters comes out of this community. And this community should be able to see something. And it's not to you, Cedric, you know, I respect you.
Yes,
it's not to Mr. Drumgo. It's not to him. But you tell him in a strong form of mayor, and we can't even get a subplex for a senior in our community. It's racist. It's disgusting that to see the high priority issues now become something that the community ain't even asking for, but it's all based on the political votes. And I think the church need to be ashamed of themselves for pushing their agenda. Thank you.
All right, Mr. McCray, do you have a tally of some of the questions? Can you respond to that? Mr. Drumgo, come do whatever you want to. Come on up. We want information. Yeah.
And I thank you all for all the great questions. One of the things that I try to tell the staff is that, listen, you can't come without an adequate report, right? And so you asked some great questions about zoning and future land use. So I'm looking at a couple of sources here. We have a zoning map, and then we also have what we call a PIMA, which is the planning and future land use map. And so I was working on the future land use, and so I was unable to get to it. But within this area, the zoning is standard is typically RS50, RS60. And so once I get to the future land use, I can dig into it a little bit more, and should be able to tell you whether or not, you know, it'll be worthwhile for us to go with more density. But when you think about what that means that each lot has to be 5,000 square feet, right? If it's RS50 from a zoning perspective. And so it just so happens that, you know, these lots are right in or around that size, but you have to think about the bigger plan or the bigger picture, and you all keep asking about that plan. Well, Mr. McCray touched on a couple of things. You cannot, unfortunately, you cannot dictate to people when they decide to sell their property. And so a lot of times people come to us and say, you know what? I do. I think I saw, you know, I see you all buying in the area. I do. I think I want to take advantage of that and relocate. And so for us, we're not saying that we want to support gentrification in that way, but when you have the opportunity as a CRA to assemble, then you can dictate the pace of what comes back in, and you can preserve and make sure that people who come from the community come back into that space. And I know that there are some terrible precedents where that didn't happen with like a domain homes. So to try to guard against that, I'll tell you what some of the things that I've done, because it just so happens that I also have real estate under my supervision as well. So I have the real estate department. But in this case, when you all look at your maps, I want you to consider that, you know, there's a real opportunity to acquire everything between Osborne, 19th, and potentially 20th, all the way down to, I think that's Noel, right? And so that wasn't the initial plan when you walked in. And I think that's some of your frustration, because they keep coming back and saying, well, guess what? We can do this. Well, guess what? We can do this too. But that's because the people who live on the block, it's not us going to knock on the door and saying, oh, you know, like, hey, like, let us buy your property. It's them coming to us and saying, you know what? I think I want to take this opportunity to go ahead and move out. And so for us, we'd rather have that site control than to have a developer come buy it right square in the middle of where we have other property. Because what that developer will do, they will hold out and they will hold you hostage, and then they won't go, and then it'll disrupt the future project. So in this case, where you can acquire it, you know, I think that we got to make sure we get them the zoning and land use. And I think that we also have to do an analysis with our planning staff. That way we can actually all we have to do is we just box it out. That's it. We box it out and show what or how many units we can get based on the future land use within this space. And you want to just set a target area. So in this case, if we do have that target area, you set that area, and then you let your CAC know how many units you could potentially have once your acquisition plan is completed. Okay. And so I'll share that back with the team. The other thing that I wanted to share with y'all is that, you know, those 17 lots that you talked about, I had them all mapped. Okay. And so internally, and this should be available for external use. I'll talk to Michelle Van Loan about this, but I made it a point to make sure that we mapped every CRA acquisition so that there was no misconception about whose money paid for those lots. That way the city can't come back later and say, hey, these lots, we're going to take those from you and use them for our purposes. So these 17 lots, they're all mapped here by CRA district, by council districts. And so there are other lots throughout the other CRAs that are also mapped by GIS, okay? The other piece of this that you all need to know about, no, this is a GIS map that it's a layer that we have internal to the city. And so I need to make what we did was we actually brought forth these 17 lots. They should be coming to the board at the next meeting for infill development. So you know how the housing and community development team, they do infill development. You all have asked for development. So I made sure that these lots are slated to go forward. So your board will get these 17 lots for information purposes, and these lots will then go through the same request for application process that housing and community development goes through. And so B Parks will be your lead to help guide through that process to make sure that we get development on these 17 lots within the CRA. So I want to say that, it's not that we're not doing anything. It's just that these are the processes to do that, that are kind of set up. And so the lots are going to move. And then are there any other questions about just generally like this, I think what this process could be, because from the planning perspective, it does take a little bit of time. If we're doing these acquisitions, you may not see it for a while, but we do have to have what we call like a drop date or a drop zone for the targets of when we stop acquiring property and go ahead and go forward with the project. Okay, so I think that's something that we need to just lock in on.
With Ebony DaCosta, with a attainable housing, one of our biggest focuses and one of our biggest needs in our area, I think the transparency and the communication has to be elevated, because keeping people informed, you know what I mean, from the community all the way to the board, from what we have to make decisions on is the problem, more or less. So like what you just dropped on us today is just, just a small layer of, I'm sure, of information that everybody is looking for. And if we have that, then we can get behind it and rally it and be excited about it and get the community engaged and involved. But when you don't have that, and we've been sitting on stuff for a while, it's very difficult for people to get excited about something when they see other CRA boards in full motion on development of things that we've been seeing. And we're probably the most, I heard a lot of distrust. I've heard a lot of people being patient and all of those things. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment and service to our community, because you being here today is awesome.
Mr. Drumgold, Ms. Parks can't do all this alone. Now, was she communication at one time? Okay, now she's moving over to, what is she moving over to? Okay, so the position that she's leaving, who's now communication, getting all the communication out to the community, to the neighborhood associations? Who's that person now?
There's an RFP in place for a firm to do that. You all have asked for that. And so our intent is to get that out as well. So the RFP will go out for those services on the communication side. We've drafted it already. I want to say that our procurement team is looking it over. And so that should go out, and then we should be staring down the firm here. And please don't quote me on this, because procurement has been one of the things that has slowed us down in purchasing goods and purchasing services. And I would say it's taken us at least 4 months to get turnaround on a lot of those. Okay.
I just want to appreciate you again for just sharing with this body about the 17 lots. But those 17 lots came as a result of Domain getting prime property, and then we ended up with substandard lots. That was before your time. So that's why they haven't been built on, because developers don't want them. Developers don't want them. And before you got here, with all due respect to you, sir, we had about 20 years of Ed Johnson, followed by Michelle Van Loan, followed by a whole heap of people that's been saying the same. I'm sorry. We can move on. I know what my vote's
Thank you.
gonna be.
Okay, so Mr. McCray, if you would state again, what is it you're looking for?
Yes. Of the property at 4603 North 19th Street.
Is there a motion? Is there a second? All right, you heard the motion and second. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Get a count. Hold that. Let's get a count. All right, all those opposed? All right, we got the noes. Got it. All right, so the motion passes. All right. To move on. Next item on the agenda is the budget for 2025. You had a copy of the budget after our meeting the other night, and after the discussion we had, those changes have been incorporated into the document. You see in front of you. Oh, I took yours.
Yes.
Craig took mine.
Good evening
All right.
again.
Go ahead, Mr. McCray.
Cedric McCray, Tampa CRA manager. Just wanted to highlight, so following the special call budget meeting that we had last Tuesday, I took the recommendations that you all or all the participants with the East Tampa CAC. I will highlight a couple of areas you all requested to add some additional funding to the pre-development grant. You required or requested commercial exterior grants, commercial interior grants, all to the tune of $600,000. And there was an additional $250,000 slated or put in with the special project grants to bring that to $1 million. And then the housing grants will remain the same. I believe there was a request to increase the infill by $250, which took that to $500,000. And those were the changes that you all made recommendation of. As you heard Mr. Drumgo speak to some of the things that were somewhat non-negotiable, and I did mention this in my comments during the budget workshop last week. If you come down to the infrastructure and capital projects, because the CRA board had approved the expenditure for the ADA improvements to the parks for the equipment. And then also you'll see that highlighted in red, as well as the improvements to the north pond on North 22nd Street. And that amount was 1.5 million. And with that being said, as you know, I shared that you roughly had about $1.4 million that you all allocated. There was an additional amount of $50,000 that was in a line item under the environmental detective. That was then placed into the land assemblage. Surprise. And I believe those were all the changes, and that got us up to the balanced amount of $12.9 million for the East Tampa CRA budget. So I will pause for any questions, and just to make everything clean. And I know that we spent well over 3 hours last Tuesday in bringing that forward and making the sausage to get to this. So that time was greatly appreciated by myself as the manager, and I will pause for any questions or comments that you all have at this time.
If you could, Mr. McCray, can you walk everyone through? We deal with this tonight. Walk us through what happens to getting this to a final approved budget.
So with that being said, we will be having internal meetings, and we have to update there's a kind of like a spreadsheet that we do, and we have to submit that information to our leadership, and then the CRA will go before the CRA board, I believe the July 25th meeting for their approval.
Will there be any changes to what we vote on tonight between what is presented to the board?
Wonderful question. So as we talked about the estimated TIF allocation and that 1.4 that I shared with you all last week, there is a potential. There could be more dollars that are going to be collected. We won't know that until sometime midsummer, so sometime late June, early July, and we will come back with you with that before you. And that's kind of the conversation we had about October, November meeting, just kind of level setting and seeing what additional funds that you all will have at your pleasure to allocate to other line items.
At the budget meeting, one of the big issues was dealing with funds left over that have been already allocated to various budget items that potentially might be redistributed to other initiatives or programs if it turns out towards the end of the year those monies have not been used. How would that occur? Would that be something that's done post budget vote? We didn't see what the actual real hard numbers are, and then you move numbers and make adjustments at that point in time. Or would there be an opportunity before the final vote to say there's going to be 50,000 here, 25,000 left there? Is there a desire to reallocate those funds?
You mean by the CRA board or by the CAC?
By the CAC in recommendation to the CRA board.
Yes, and I can definitely let you know what that excess amount or that overage may be, and then we can have that discussion at a later date. I will tell you traditionally what we've done is allocated to a specific line item, and I kind of shared that with you all last week. And then if we need to, we can make the request to reprogram those dollars if there is something that comes up that the CAC wants, a project or a initiative that you all want to see move forward, and then that will we'll go through the approval process with the CRA board.
Is that votes for the CRA board? Is that November or the September
for
the approval of the budget?
No, that will be July timeframe.
So they are approving in July. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Those are the questions. Anybody else have any
Mr.
questions?
Roscoe's got one comment.
Go. Okay. Go ahead. Please, the microphone, please. Thank you.
And part of what Mr. McCray is saying is accurate. Your budget gets approved in July on the 25th, but you also have to keep in mind that after the budget, the reallocations cannot occur until the budget is trued up, because they've been spending money and they will continue to spend up until the fiscal year closes out. Last year, we did not true up the budget until almost February because we were spending that quickly. And so, I just want to keep in mind that, you may not get that back until you're almost halfway through your fiscal year again, which is why he's saying that the monies that are in the line item where they sit, typically we just roll it over, right? And it's in that line, or you can do the reprogram. The other piece of that is that if you plan in advance as a CAC with recommendations, you can actually amend the budget, but it has to go to the county for notification if we do that amendment, just so you know.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And if I could
go ahead.
So there was a lot of discussion, and I'm looking at Ms. Henderson.
But you know what I'm going to say.
I already know. So and it was the overage, and what's going to happen with that $8 million, because we had already spent $2 million. Oh, okay. So, but that what we're talking about kind of answers that question. What happens? Yes, ma'am.
Right. Pass the mic down. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
So I'm just going to say it because now we've got a panel, so I can say it in front of the panel, right? An email that I sent with making my requests. It's okay to share that. Okay, so I had made a request because after the budget meeting, I was extremely confused about the environmental detective. So I went and did my own quote unquote detective work and could not find anything about that particular position, either on the City of Tampa website or on the police department or with TPD. And that's a challenge for me, because if we're looking to spend close to $200,000 on a position, I certainly would like to know where it is, what it's doing, where are the reports. We should be getting monthly reports for that. That's almost $200,000 that we're giving a city employee to do what? And there's no information. The only thing I could find, I think, dated back to 2008, when I think the program was initiated.
2007.
7.
Yes, ma'am.
So I was close. I mean, I got a full-time job I'm doing this on the side.
I understand.
So my challenge is, while I voted in favor of it then, and I made this comment to you, I am not in favor of it now. And I don't want to even vote on the budget until I get answers. And if I have to make a motion to do that, Mr. Drumko, I will make a motion to get the information that I need and what I feel the rest of the board needs that are new members and even our current members who still don't have a clue what this position is doing. That's just one. The other issue, because I had a huge email that I sent you and I didn't expect you to get it back before this meeting, just so you know.
Actually, so I'll say it on the record. I've already responded to the email. Director Moody has it. She is looking at it, and
Okay.
as soon as she says I can hit send, I will send.
Perfect. That's great.
Took my time over the weekend to do that.
Perfect. The other issue was the city utilities that I had some questions with, because I actually went through and reviewed all the CRA budgets. What was limited, it's a limited availability that's online. So I did, my email included, can I get a more detailed budget? Because based on the budgets that I read with the other CRAs, none of them are paying for city utilities. And as we know, none of them are also paying for an environmental detective, although I know you mentioned most of them wish that they had it.
Yes, ma'am.
In order for us to make that decision, though, we need to see information. We need to see, why do you think it's such a good idea? Why does the CRA think it's such a good idea? So while I'm currently opposed simply because of a lack of information, it doesn't mean that that won't change once the information is provided, and then we can make more informed decisions. And that's my whole problem with this budget, is there's a lot of things that were thrown at us, and I'm doing my best to stay on course. But there are a couple of things that I will not move forward with. City utilities is one, and the environmental detective is number two.
Yes, ma'am. And let me, if I may.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I will make myself available. After we had our budget workshop last Tuesday, I probably spent half my day on the phone with members of the CAC answering any questions. Or, so, and I will gladly make time, because I want to make sure that you all have the information and the correct information. And there's 15 of you, one of me. So please just let me know whenever you're available. If you have a specific question and you sent your email, and that will be coming to you soon.
I appreciate that. And
Yes,
I'm not a phone person.
Mhm.
Everything I do is in writing, because it's just the way that I can comprehend the information.
Understood.
So understand that.
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
do it on purpose. I do it because that's how I learn and acquire information. Thank you, Cedric.
Yes, not a problem.
We
And that can be in person or virtual, and that goes for everyone on the CAC.
Ms. Burton.
So this budget will be presented to the body, the CRA, on September the 25th, you said?
July
25th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that means, help me, because I don't want to see it next week at the CRA presentation.
No.
That $1.5 million is going to go to that retention pond, because I know it's a political hot button. Before it is approved, two of the council members wanted it done in April. That's why we see a heavy presence of hope
Yes, ma'am.
that's here tonight and continue to be
Really?
here
I had noticed.
until, that piece is pushed. So if it's not going to be on the, I just want to hear it out of your mouth.
No, it will not be on the June 13th agenda. No, ma'am. July 25th, because we have to do some internal massaging with everything.
Because it's marked in red, from what I hear Mr. Drungo said, that's untouchable. So what is that?
No, she asked specifically, will it be on the June 13th meeting? And I said, no, absolutely not.
Because it's already been approved. And
Correct. And that's why I said that when I was going through, if you highlighted in red, to Mr. Drumgo's point, yes. So.
All right. So we have gone through the budget through our regular meeting last month. We had a special call meeting to review the budget. We have had the budget presentation again tonight. Is there a motion to approve the budget that has been presented? We've heard them. Is there a second? All right, motion is moved in second. Are we ready for the question? I'm sorry. Hold on for a minute. You may right. Then Miss Noreen Miller is going to tell me that your motion failed for lack of a second. She's got the Robert's Rules of Order. But let's resolve the budget, and we can come back to your motion for the more information. Right. That's hold on for a minute. Hold on a minute. Just a moment. Just a moment. That's your right to vote in that capacity. But if you made a motion, I didn't hear a second to that motion, so that motion would die for lack of a second.
I did make the motion. I said I'd like to make the motion, and then it went off to her to make.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Second to that motion. That motion needs to be addressed first. We can deal with whatever other matters after that. So
You should have made a motion.
hold on. There was no motion presented.
Motion and second. You want to continue the business?
All right, so we have a motion on the floor, second to approve the budget as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand so we can be clear on the numbers. Hold that, hold them.
Can the chairperson vote no?
Yeah. All those opposed? Okay, all right, so now let's come back. You said you had a motion that you wanted to make.
Did that motion pass?
Yes.
That motion passed.
7-4.
All right, let's move to our next agenda item. What do we have, Mr. McGray?
That was it.
All right, so the next item is new business. Do you have any items for new business? Anyone with new business? I think Ms. Henderson raised, go ahead, Ms. Fox. Ms. Bernie, you'll pass the microphone down.
Oh, it's over there. Sorry. Yes, hon. In regards to housing and the properties, one thing that concerns me is that I feel like we're always kind of behind, as far as recommendations from the cities. So I want to make a proposal for sometime after the July meeting, that we have a workshop based on the properties, particularly the one of Osborne, and the other 17 properties that we'll receive more information about on the July 2nd meeting, where we could make a list and come together, have a request that we have some city staff here that could provide information about density, give examples of density, where we could begin to set the density so we avoid having any kind of, again, McMansions on the properties, that we can restrict certain types of development on there to make sure that we have attainable housing and housing for working class individuals and any kind of other wants that would want of those properties. Because although I do, I completely agree that, the community has been saying that we want this attainable and affordable housing for years. And I feel one way we could push that even further is if we, as a board, present a list of recommendations to the CRA. So that's what I'd like to have. So I don't know if I guess I need to make a motion for that, to have that at some time after the July 2nd meeting, a workshop for development of attainable housing on CRA-owned lands.
I think that may be something we can make an agenda item and carve out time to discuss during a meeting and not have to have a special meeting to address that if staff provides it with the relevant information, like the location of the lots and some ideas of things that could go on the lots and what the process would be for getting our proposals out for doing some construction on those lots. But I think that's something we probably can fit into a meeting by making it an agenda item. Now that we've got the budget out the way, we don't have a heavy agenda. That was my thought. I'm open the floor for other people's thoughts about.
Just add that to business.
We're adding a new business. A discussion regarding the current lots that we have and potential options for developing those lots. That's not a motion. We're just discussing now. I'd like to hear other people's thoughts. Anyone else want to share thoughts about how we go about getting information so that we can start to push suggestions to the CRA board regarding development?
Yes, I think we do need a plan. I'm looking here at the properties that's already identified as high. So when we have the next meeting, when the staff comes out, will they specifically address timelines? That's what we're looking for the planning. And it doesn't have to be detailed, but we should at least know, is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 6 months? So I want to start with number one, every property that's on here to include the 17 CRA properties owned and the Osborne property for a plan.
I want to make sure I'm hearing you. So you said what's listed in Ms. Martinez's report, as well as the Osborne properties and the 17.
Correct.
Okay.
Timelines, density, as Craig stated.
Let me say one thing.
Go ahead.
So the CRA or the cities actually in the development business. They don't develop, they kind of ask for proposals, and private builders and developers come in and actually do the building process. So the timeline, getting the plan, I think is important. But if you were to go back and I think take the CRA plan, you probably can back into what should be going on those lots based off the CRP. So that piece may be one dynamic of it. The actual construction piece, because we don't control that, it may be a little bit more dicey. You can have some projections on what it might take, the timeline to do so. But I think it's incumbent that we have staff come in and say, here's your land, and here's some ideas based on the plan that you have already in place, what might go on those properties, and here is a reasonable timeline for making that happen. But they won't be the ones doing it. So, and a lot of that also, the variables involved in that happening go beyond just the CRA board, the city's involved, and extensively staffing. So, but I think it's time that we get some clarity on, particularly for some of the newer folks, what is even in the hopper and what we can do with it, so it doesn't seem like this property is just sitting out there in the wings. But I'm trying to blend what you're saying in to make sure we meet the expectations of what Mr. Fox is looking for. Does what she stated, does that meet what you're trying to achieve?
So my only concern is that if we ask them for a timeline, again, I feel like we're not that we're in control of the timeline, but I want us to be leading on the type of expectations for the development that would want on their property. And I feel like if we have a set list, now, no, I'm not a developer that's building on the land. We're not here to vote for the development, but if we can have a set list of what of our recommendations for the development on that property, I feel like it can go a longer way to things not getting out of hand, and any protections we can put in place to prevent what happened with domain homes in the past. I think we certainly need to make our voice loud and clear. And I feel like if we had a list of agreed upon board, CAC board approved agreements, that could go a lot further than just saying that we want attainable housing. I just want us to be more focused in our approach.
Okay, Ms. Burton, let's get a mic over there.
So, no, I got one. So, years ago, I'm just going to speak on my limitation. And I say housing. I felt like we needed an urban planner to be at the table with us, that we one time had it as a line item that we wanted to hire an urban planner. So when we come up with our little great ideas here, before we go to, we're not developers, but before it hit paper, we would have been able to present our ideas, right? Because like right now, we just spit in the wind. The city ain't gonna build no houses. City ain't gonna draw a plan for you. That is something we have to see about ourselves. That lot is a public information, and all we gotta say, send it out there, everybody, so they can see it. Drive by and look at the lots. We need to come with a specific plan so it can go into Councilwoman Gwen Henderson ear that we need an urban planner to deal with these lots. We don't have that. They ain't gonna build no houses. We have to tell them what we want.
All right. So let's get back to trying to address Mr. Fox idea of getting information and Miss Noreen Copeland Miller. Yes. We need it for the recording.
Thank you. I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that I agree with what Ms. Darnell said about a timeline. Sorry, today, because if I was listening real closely to Mr. Drumgo, he was very clear about a drop date and drop zone, that we need to ask those things. So we just spitting out in the wind about doing all this, and a workshop should be had, but a drop date, like she was saying, drop zone, because we'll be waiting for years because we've not put a timeline anywhere. We just want them to come and talk about this property that we all know about. I think what would have been really nice if you want to do an impact to, and you could have took the people by the property, this board could know exactly what we're looking at. But not having a visual, I do, because I've gone by to see exactly what's going on. But how many people on this board is not? They have no clue what you're talking about. We need a drop date, a drop zone, whatever. We need a timeline here because we continue to talk about nothing. Thank you, sir.
Are you referring to the property we just voted on specifically?
I'm talking about what this young lady just said, and I'm supporting what she said. And she asked for for a drop date and drop zone. That's what I'm asking. We need. Someone said we don't need that, but yes, we do, because we continue to talk and we don't have a date or come back and report or any of that. We just talking, spinning our wheels. So I'm supporting what she said. I think it's necessary.
Okay, let's pass the mic over to Ms. Hedlund if we don't mind. And if it's okay, well, let's get to a motion and a vote if we can.
Kim Hedlund, I completely support what Mr. Fox and everybody here has said regarding we need a plan, we need a timeline, we need the same way we're getting this graph that has certain properties listed. I think we need it for each and every single property that's been acquired over the last, 15 plus years, because there are properties that literally sit in my neighborhood, sit in your neighborhood that were acquired 15 years ago. We need to understand what they are. We need planning, city planning, to tell us you can put a single family house on this. You can put a duplex here. You can't put commercial here. Just basic rules, basic density. And I think Mr. Fox is right. I think it's complex, and I think it probably does require a workshop, and it probably does require or the dedication of a single meeting to cover all of those properties, what you can do with them, and then prioritize. Because otherwise, I'm not joking. There are properties that sit in my neighborhood that were purchased 15 years ago and are left over. Domain didn't want them. Nobody wanted them, blah, blah, blah. They're sitting there. We have the potential, when there's no affordable housing, to do something with them. And we talk about it, but unless it's on a piece of paper and there's a staff person assigned to it, it's not going to happen. So I second, if that was a motion for a workshop, I second that.
Let me say this. I want if we're gonna have a workshop, I want it to be in a space that could be productive. We probably need an update from staff to tell us what properties we have, what's potential for those properties, and then we can hash out what we might could do with them and send that up to the board. So anyway, is there a motion?
Yes,
no, Mr. McCray.
I whispered to Fox earlier after he made this motion. If we want to dedicate the August 6th meeting to do that, and that will give us enough time to work with the planning staff and the other necessary parties to bring back all of that information, and we can just slate that meeting just for the parcels and properties within the East Tampa CRA and discussion on future development.
Okay, so my motion's coming. All right, so I'd like to make a motion at the August 6th meeting for the city staff to come and present potential timelines for the development of the properties and for the CAC to develop recommendations for the type of development that we want on the lots on the Osborne Avenue and on the 17 lots.
Let's take that number out and say all the lots we own. Because I don't want that bit of 18 and 17.
Okay, so I'd like for the, just make sure we get it for the record. So I'd like to make a motion for so my name's Craig Fox. I'd like to make a motion for the August 6th CAC meeting. That city staff comes with potential timelines for the development of properties on all CRA owned lots. And also for the CAC to develop a list of recommendations for development on CRA owned properties.
Okay, you heard the motion. Is there a second? All right, motion. Any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, did you get the vote? That's the only opposed. All right, so now let's go back to something that Ms. Henderson brought up, and that's regarding the lack of transparency and information regarding the environmental detective and what that detective does and the thing and the history behind that. So the first thing, I think we need an update from the detective. And we need him to come with stats and things of that nature, all that he can muster to show why that position even exists and kind of, where it could be. And one of the things she brought up was this transparency piece. I'm not exactly sure why there is no public information about what he does. At the least, we should be getting a written report monthly so that we can see what's been done. And I know we have him on like a quarterly rotation for coming through, but I think we need a monthly report stating kind of what activities we've been getting. And I know that doesn't need a motion. Just put that down for new business, if you would. Okay. Okay, that'll be perfect. Extend that time for him. Ms. Burton.
I would like to see if there's what contract did the East Tampa CRA formulate with TPD for that arrangement?
It's an in-service agreement.
If you, yeah, right.
Yes.
Yes, Diane.
I believe
Sorry,
it
to
was
get your
at, this is Diane Ziegler. I believe that Detective Washington spoke at one of our CAC meetings, and I don't remember what month it was. I remember he said exactly what's going to happen. He said businesses have to trim their vines growing on their fence, and cars shouldn't leave their vehicles left at businesses and go somewhere else, that those business owners had better, pay attention to that because they're liable. And he went through a whole list of things, and I forget what month he came, and he already did. He spoke about it in detail, but I do agree, having a regular report from him, whether it's monthly, quarterly, whatever, it would be good to know.
Thank you. Ms. Miller.
Hello.
Yeah, I think that was intentional by Mr. McCray so that you all couldn't hear me.
You take as much time.
But let me just say this, if I may say this,
Yes.
please. I don't even know the young man's name, Mr. Washington. I think it's the fourth environmental person that we've had in that position. I think he's only been here 2 months, but it appears he's been some neighborhood association private. Is he a police officer, first of all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it appears they got private policing in some neighborhood association because we don't know him in ours. And he's been here 2 months. He came to one meeting, but everybody seemed to know him so personally. So I'm just concerned about that because no other CRA has environmental detective. We all throughout the city of Tampa, there's dumping issues. Now, Mr. Williams, when he was here before he left, he did provide reports, and he had the same old pictures every time about illegal dumping. We have all cameras. Where are they? We don't ever see them. They saying they're using them to do whatever because these people on their own little private venue about what's going on in their neighborhood association to attack businesses. I don't know. I know we don't know who he is. He's only been with us 2 months, but these people seem like they got a long-standing relationship with them. Some of the folks, I don't know. but we should be getting a report every month from him if we're spending this kind of money, not a quarterly report, because it's clear they are changing. This is the fourth person in that position. So it must be something going on there, but we're paying a policeman salary. I got a concern with that. He works for the city. They have to pay him. Why is the CRA paying him? And why are we paying city utilities? That I got to pay my own light bills and stuff. I'm just not clear on what's really going on with our CRA board. We're treated differently than the other 7 for whatever reason. Are we a slush fund or what's going on over here? I don't know. I got a concern.
Okay, Mr. Fox, go ahead.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
First, I want to say thank you to the chair for acknowledging the environmental detective, the issue that I did bring to the panel. I appreciate that very much. I'm assuming you're going to make a motion to make sure we get the information, because we need to do it in the form of a motion.
We can absolutely do it. I can do that.
Absolutely. Great. Again, I said what I needed to say about the environmental detective. You made it very clear. There's absolutely no information online on city website, TPD website. We need that information, folks. I know you guys pushed that budget through, but I am not one to approve money to push budgets through just because when you're spending those kinds of dollars for a position that we don't know anything about. So that's why I was opposed to the budget, because I just don't agree. I just don't agree with spending money and you have no information. So ultimately, I just wanted to say thank you. And I hope we do our due diligence to get the information we need. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Mr. Fox.
Yeah, yes, this time, sorry, I wasn't looking I wasn't on Instagram on my phone. I was looking up the actual budget for TPD. So from 2020, fiscal year 21, the expenses was 185 million. Fiscal year 22, 199 million. Fiscal year 23, 256 million. And 23-24 recommended total budget $228 million. So while I certainly do support, getting contractors that are legally dumping, causing blight in East Tampa, I think is very concerning that the budget has been increased, in fact, it's illegal to decrease the budget of police in Florida right now. So the budget is increasing, and I feel like $200,000 could certainly be, done and spent on all CRAs to enforce illegal dumping. So I think that should be looked at in the future.
Did you want to comment? You have a comment over here.
I just, that position was created in 2007 when a different CAC felt like illegal dumping was a significant issue.
Actually, I had 2 people.
What's that?
There were actually 2
environmental crimes. Right.
Go ahead.
I'll defer to whoever has the better historical institutional knowledge of it, but that was designated as a priority regarding illegal dumping. The police have a huge budget, as you just pointed out. While we pushed the budget through, I think this is something that this CAC has to look at, whether or not that $200,000, is that really the priority for TPD, or can TPD, like they're doing in West Tampa, in New Tampa, in wherever, they figure out those environmental crimes? There is a detective. The detective comes out of that general fund, that general budget for Tampa Police Department. Should we be spending money on that? So I think this is something that's going to keep coming up. And I think it would be really beneficial to have those hard conversations with, whether it's District 3 or whether it's the chief of police and it's the annual budgeting, whether that's really something East Tampa should be covering, or if that $200,000 would go a lot further, if it's dedicated to summer youth programs or internships or whatever. But I think that hard conversation has to happen going forward.
All right, thank you. It's I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we get monthly meetings from the environmental detective, providing statistics on activities, cases, and violations, and that information be made available to the public. Is there a second for that motion? I'm making a motion. All right. All right. Is there any further discussion? Go ahead. I got a second motion coming behind that for more.
By moving Oh, thank you. I think what you're hearing is not what she said. You know, you're moving toward something that he can come in here and tell us that he spotted 15 this, that. But what I heard Ms. Kim says is that who's going to have that hard conversation? I'm quite sure he's going to come in and justify his job description, what he's doing. What we're saying and continue to say, even in the community, could that money be a better use since the TPD already gets 60% of the city budget? Why should it fall on this poor impoverished community just for one particular officer out of all of the city in Tampa to support that budget?
So the first dynamic I'm trying to achieve is information so that it can be analyzed. That's one, the currentness. So that's the first piece. The second piece is then trying to figure out whether or not going forward it's something we want to pay with. But there are a number of people here who don't have any information about this person. So I would like
not
to bring
the person, the
position,
description. Because I don't want it to get it like we don't like him.
Right.
No,
right. I agree.
We've had a environmental detective since 2007. We in 2024.
And
so
we
the question should be to this board and vote, you know, however, is that's the best utilization of our dollars.
Right. And
when the police department is everywhere, we got the green team, we got Vice, we got the jump out boys, we got a whole bunch of police.
So the first step I want to do, though, for the people here that may not be fully aware of what that person does and what he does, is get them up to speed so that we can do that analysis. I want to request by motion we get that information. He may have it, but I want that the person doing that job and the information so that we can whatever questions we may have, we have the information, we can analyze that, and then we can look budget wise. Is this something we think the community needs? And it may go beyond his stats and greater stats of other crimes and things that feed into what the environmental detective does. And we do a full analysis of that. But I think step one is getting the information. So one, we have the motion on the floor. Motion been second. Are you ready for the vote? All those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion. Yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. On the position, part of what you're motioning is to include his job description for that position.
Now we know that we can easily
job
pull that from. Yeah, he can provide that. I want him to come in here and explain to you all
and
what he goes out and does, addressing the issues that impact the community, and the stats backing that up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what the motion.
In addition, the public job description, because someone here said they didn't find anything public.
Well, that's a city, information officer issue. What we can do, though, is part of what information we make available to the public. We can attach his reports to that information. So if somebody wants to go and look at that information whenever they want to, they can. I'm only going to do what I may be, but I right here tonight. Okay, we got a motion on the floor. The motion is second. Further discussion on the motion. Yes, go ahead.
This is Diane Ziegler. I strongly feel we do need the environmental detective, and I was shocked when I looked at the original CRP that was written in 2004, and I had a list of properties, and some of them were numbering in the hundreds, 500, 600. I don't remember now the columns. If some of them were police calls, some of them were code enforcement calls. It was staggering. I was like, how can this possibly be? And there are properties that do need attention, and code enforcement, they need police calls. Yes, and I think we need to still address the slum and blight in East Tampa.
Thank you.
If the property owners and the business owners were acted differently, we probably wouldn't need this environmental detective. However, there are illegal dumpers who do drive in. I have couches across from me that just got dropped off a few days ago, mattresses rather. So those are not, maybe not the people who live here, but the property owners and the homeowners need to act better. They wouldn't need this job.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, you have comments regarding the motion to get a report.
Again, yes, I want to ask if it's even legal for the Florida, is it even legal per the Florida State Statute 163 that governs the CRA that to have a continuous environmental detective? Is that even in the statute? Because she brought up CRP. And is it in there? The Florida State statute, it should be. My discussion is it even legal?
Respectfully, Mrs. Miller, that has nothing to do with voting on a report.
On the report, I didn't understand the motion you guys are making. We're talking about position.
No, we're going.
First of all, with Robert Rules of Order, though, the chairperson don't make a motion. You facilitate the meeting. That's why I brought my book tonight, because it's clear that we are not doing that because someone in the audience makes the motion and you facilitating, but you continue to make motion that should not be happening. And Mr. McCray allowing that because you're the facilitator, you're the chair. You're not the one to make motion. Help me with that, Mr. McCray.
Mrs. Miller, if you're saying that that motion is out of line, I'll gladly withdraw the motion. Is there someone else that would like to make a motion for the environmental detective to make a report? The motion is withdrawn, and we'll gladly have someone else make the motion. Go ahead.
All right. I'd like to make a motion for the environmental detective to come to each CAC meeting with a report of the work of their work being done.
I'll second.
All right, sir. The motion is second. Are we ready for the question? Yes. All in favor, say aye. All opposed to the detective bringing us a report. Okay. All right. Now, what I would like to see, though, is once we get informed, we then engage in an analysis about whether it is appropriate for us to continue that. And Mr. McCray, if you could get us a legal opinion from the CRA attorney as to the legality of that position being permitted under the statute, would be appreciated so that we can address the issues. Yeah. Yeah. Ms. Burton.
And the use of funding for the CRAs. So if he can ask the legal counsel to provide us what is the state statute as well, and that would prohibit, say, that would probably stop me from having to ask the state a direct question about it. If he can give us from the legal side, because usually they tell us, I'm just using this as an example. Young people couldn't, they like it was a problem with young people to be financed through the CRA, you know.
For the jobs.
Yeah,
right.
Jobs. So this man has a job within the city of Tampa, and he is a law enforcement officer, and we are supplementing where he can get his retirement, his pension, and we are double dipping. And I want to see if that's legal.
So specifically, is it related to the environmental detective, or is it because you initially said funding?
The environmental detective. Okay. He is a legal sworn officer by the city of Tampa. He got all his license from the state of Florida, and yet we're paying him to watch sofas and all this other stuff that he's doing. I don't know if that's legal.
Okay. Do we have any? You got that, Mr. McCray? We have anything else under new business? If not, let's move to announcements. Mr. McCray, announcements.
My end, next East Tampa CAC meeting is scheduled for July 2nd.
All right.
And I will say, I know that is close to the 4th of July holiday. So if you are expecting not to be in town, or if you're traveling, let me know on the front end. And it doesn't have to be in this form, but either phone call or email, and that way we can check the necessity to hold the meeting on July 2nd if we're not going to be able to assemble a quorum.
All right. Anything further? If not, we're adjourned.